We come to the world of science fiction stories. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. The Galactic Council trembles. A human super warship rises. The Galactic Council had ruled over the known universe for centuries, believing themselves to be the ultimate authority in all matters of war, diplomacy, and progress. They saw humanity as a reckless, insignificant species, loud, emotional, and dangerously unpredictable. That illusion shattered the moment the human warship appeared. It was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. A colossus of blackened metal armed with weaponry that defied all known physics, hovering silently at the edge of Council-controlled space. It didn't send a diplomatic envoy. It didn't broadcast a demand. It simply existed, a silent statement that humanity had crossed a threshold from which there was no return. Admiral Tirth of the Zalan Dominion felt a deep, primal unease settle into his bones as he observed the warship on the holoscreen. It dwarfed even the largest Council dreadnoughts, its angular, brutalist design exuding a singular message. We are not here to negotiate. Tirth turned to Jurak, the Council's chief of security, his voice barely above a whisper. How in the stars did they build that thing? Jurak, his reptilian features tight with unease, shook his head. Our intelligence found no evidence of such a project. We believe humans lack the resources, the infrastructure, the knowledge. Then we were fools. Teth's mandibles clicked in agitation. If they hid something like this, what else are they hiding? Before Jurak could respond, a deep, commanding voice cut through the council chamber. It came from the warship, broadcasting directly into their secure communications array. To the esteemed members of the Galactic Council, the voice said, calm yet edged with unmistakable steel. For years, you have dictated the terms of our existence. You have dismissed us, disregarded us, and believed we would remain beneath you. That ends today. The chamber erupted into chaos. Some demanded immediate retaliation, others called for diplomacy. But those who understood humanity best, the few who had studied their history, simply sat in horrified silence. Because this was not a declaration of war. This was a statement of intent, and humans never made threats unless they were fully prepared to see them through. A heavy silence settled over the Galactic Council chamber. The words of the human commander still echoed in the minds of every representative. The warship, a blackened behemoth that dwarfed their most advanced dreadnoughts, hung at the edge of their space like an omen. Admiral Thith turned toward the supreme speaker of the council, a towering, four-eyed Vortal named Iskar. We must act now, Tirth hissed. If we let this thing remain unchecked, humanity will believe they are our equals. A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber, but Iskar did not respond immediately. His long, claw-like fingers tapped the armrest of his throne-like seat. His violet eyes locked onto the hollow screen displaying the human warship. No species could have built such a vessel in secret, he said at last. Not without outside help. His gaze swept the room. Who among us has betrayed the council? The chamber erupted in accusations. The reptilian Kareth blamed the insectoid Vexor. The amphibious Dr. Ected the cunning Varkari. Traitors. No one wanted to admit the unthinkable, that humans had done this alone. Then the human voice returned. I would advise against pointing fingers. The commander said, his tone as sharp as a blade. We did not need help. We did not need permission. And we certainly do not need your approval. The chamber fell silent again. Ter's mandibles clicked in frustration. You expect us to believe that your primitive species built that warship without assistance. The human chuckled. You call us primitive, Admiral. Yet here we are, speaking on our own terms, dictating our own future. Meanwhile, your fleets, your weapons, your so-called superiority tremble in the shadow of something you cannot understand. A few council members shifted uneasily. Then what is it you want? Iskar demanded. His voice was calm, but his claws gripped the armrests tightly. There was a pause, a long, deliberate silence. Then the human replied, consider this an introduction. And with that, the warship moved. Without a sound, without a single energy signature, it activated its engines and vanished from the scanners. One moment it was there, a nightmare made of steel and fury. The next, nothing remained. Gasps of disbelief filled the chamber. They cloaked an entire warship, Jurak muttered, his scaled hands trembling. That's impossible. No, Iskar said, his voice grim. It's worse than impossible. His violet eyes gleamed with something the council had never felt before when thinking of humanity. dread. Because if the humans had built this ship without the Council knowing, if they had learned to cloak such a massive war machine, then the Galactic Council had already lost control, and they had no idea how many more were out there. The shock of the human warship's disappearance sent ripples of panic through the Galactic Council. Entire civilizations had fought wars over less. Cloaking technology was rare, but cloaking something that size, a ship of such unimaginable power, was supposed to be impossible. The fact that humans had done it without the Council's knowledge meant one thing. They had no idea what humanity was truly capable of. Admiral Turth paced in tight circles, his clawed feet clicking against the polished floor of the Council chamber. "We cannot allow this to stand," he snarled. "This warship, this abomination, is a direct challenge to our authority. Humanity must be reminded of its place." Jurek, still watching the empty holoscreen, spoke carefully. "And what if we are the ones who need reminding?" Tarth spun on him, mandibles flaring. "You fear them?" Jurek let out a slow, rattling exhale. "I fear what we don't know. That ship isn't just a weapon, Turth. It's a statement. Humanity is telling us that they no longer consider us their overseers. They built that warship in secret, cloaked it in ways we cannot comprehend, and then, instead of attacking, they left." His slitted eyes narrowed. "Tell me, Admiral, what do you think that means?" Tarth refused to answer. Instead, Supreme Speaker Esker rose from his seat, the massive Vorti towering over the room. "Enough bickering," he said, his voice like a rolling storm. "The Council has been challenged. The question is, do we respond with diplomacy or force?" The chamber fell into a tense silence. Then a new transmission arrived. The hollow screen flickered, and this time the human commander's image appeared. He was a scared man with cold, calculating eyes. His uniform bore no insignia, only a single silver emblem shaped like a blade. "Since we seem to have your attention," he said smoothly, "I'd like to clarify a few things." No one spoke. The commander leaned forward slightly, his expression unreadable. "You believe yourselves the rulers of the galaxy, the arbiters of peace and war. You decide which species thrives and which withers under your policies. For years, humanity played along. We followed your rules. We accepted your guidance." His lips curled into a mirthless smile. "But we are not your subjects." The words hung in the air like a blade against the throat of the Council. "We do not seek war," the commander continued, "but we do not fear it. We do not seek to rule, but we will never again be ruled." He leaned back, letting the weight of his words settle. "The ship you saw? It is only one." A cold shudder ran through the chamber. "We built it in silence. We launched it in secrecy. And we are not done." Supreme Speaker Esker inhaled sharply. "Are you threatening us?" The human gave a slow, deliberate nod. "I am warning you." His voice was calm, yet every syllable dripped with finality. "You believed you could shape the future without us, but now the future belongs to everyone, whether you accept that or not." And with that, the transmission cut out. A long silence followed. No one dared speak. Then at last, Iskar turned to the Council. His violet eyes gleamed with something rarely seen in the halls of galactic power: uncertainty. "Summon the admirals," he said. "Humanity has made its move." Fifth's claws flexed in anticipation. "Then we must prepare for war." "No." Iskar's voice was quiet but firm. "We must prepare for something far worse, because if the humans were telling the truth, then the galaxy had already lost its grip on power, and no one knew what would happen next." In the days that followed the human transmission, the Galactic Council found itself in unfamiliar territory: uncertainty. For centuries, they had dictated the course of galactic affairs, ensuring no species ever gained too much power. Whenever an empire grew too bold, the Council crushed it with economic sanctions, fleet interventions, or political sabotage. It had always worked, until now, because this time, the threat wasn't a rebellious faction. It wasn't a rogue warlord seeking control. It was humanity, a species they had dismissed as reckless, emotional, and insignificant. And humanity had just revealed a super warship that defied every known law of galactic warfare and then vanished. That, more than anything, terrified them. On the Council's central homeworld, in the war chambers beneath the Grand Spire of Order, a meeting of the highest-ranking military officials was underway. Holograms of the warship's brief appearance flickered in the dimly lit room. Every detail was scrutinized, analyzed, and dissected, yet no answers emerged. "This defies logic," Tuff growled, tapping his clawed fingers against the table. A ship of this scale should have taken a century to construct. We have entire fleets monitoring their sector. How did we miss it? Jurek, still composed despite the tension in the room, spoke with unsettling calm. The better question is, how many more exist? A weighted silence fell. Eskar, seated at the head of the table, let out a slow exhale. What do we know about human military strategy? An intelligence officer, a sleek-furred Varkari, stood and activated a secondary holoscreen. It displayed a timeline of human warfare, centuries of brutal conflicts, technological leaps, and strategic adaptability. Humanity has never been the most advanced species, the officer began, but what they lack in raw technology, they compensate for with ingenuity. A section of the display zoomed in, showcasing battle after battle where humans had fought against superior forces and won. They do not fight conventionally, the officer continued. When outnumbered, they refuse open conflict. When cornered, they become most dangerous. When facing an overwhelming enemy, they innovate beyond expectation. He gestured towards the now-vanished warship. This vessel is proof of that. It is not merely a warship, it is a statement. Tirth scoffed. Then we must respond in kind. If humanity seeks to play at war, we will show them the cost of such arrogance. Jorak turned to him. And if that's exactly what they want? Tirth bristled, mandibles clicking in frustration. You think they want war? Jorek's yellow eyes gleamed. I think they prepared for it long before we realized it was coming. Meanwhile, light years away, deep within a classified human outpost, the warship's commander stood before a vast tactical display. Around him, officers analyzed streams of data, council fleet formations, intercepted communications, and projected responses. A young officer approached. Sir, the council is in chaos. Some factions push for war, others hesitate. They're completely off balance. The commander nodded. Good, keep it that way. He turned his gaze to a secondary display, one showing dozens of massive blackened vessels sitting in the void, hidden behind layers of cloaking technology. Each one was an improvement over the first, a fleet built in the shadows. The officer hesitated before speaking. Do you believe they'll listen, sir, or will they force our hand? The commander's expression remained unreadable. They think this is about power, about dominance. His eyes darkened. They don't understand yet, but they will. He turned away from the display, his voice cold and unwavering. This isn't a war of conquest. It's a reckoning. And somewhere in the depths of space, the super warships of humanity waited, hidden, watching, preparing. Because the next time they appeared, the galaxy wouldn't be given a warning. Tension in the Galactic Council had reached a breaking point. Every species with a stake in galactic affairs now faced the same question. Was humanity bluffing, or had the balance of power truly shifted? In the war chambers beneath the spire of order, the Council's top strategists and admirals continued their desperate analysis. Hours turned into days, yet no new information surfaced. The warship had disappeared, leaving nothing but fear and speculation in its wake. Admiral Tarth, pacing with barely restrained fury, slammed a fist against the war table. Enough of this waiting. If they will not show themselves, we will force them into the open. Jurek exhaled slowly. And how do you propose we do that, Admiral? Thith's mandibles flared. We take the fight to them. If they refuse to answer, we burn their colonies, blockade their trade routes, and remind them who controls this galaxy. For a long moment, Supreme Speaker Eskar said nothing. He studied the table, his claws rhythmically tapping the surface. Then, at last, he spoke. And if we cannot stop them? Thith froze. You believe we can't? I believe we don't know what we're up against, Iskar admitted, his violet eyes locked onto Kith's, unblinking. Tell me, Admiral, can you say with certainty how many of these ships they have? Can you say with certainty that attacking them will not provoke a disaster we cannot recover from? Tirth hesitated. For the first time, he did not have an immediate response. Jurek spoke next, his voice carrying an edge of unease. We have spent centuries ensuring no species rises too high, but this is different. Humanity has been preparing for something we never saw coming. Eskar leaned forward, his gaze sharp. And tell me, Admiral, what if we have already lost control? Its claws curled into a fist. Then we fight. Eskar's expression darkened. Then we lose. A long silence followed. Then, without warning, alarms blared through the war chamber. The hollow screen flickered to life, displaying a real-time distress signal. Emergency transmission from the Vexar border outpost, a technician reported. They are under attack. Unknown vessel detected. That's heart pounded. Show me. The hollow screen shifted, revealing grainy footage from the outpost's security feeds. In the darkness of space, something loomed over the station. A warship. Not just any warship.